Okay, thanks for being here today. It's very quiet, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So I don't know if I really need to do the gavel, but I kind of feel like I'll do the gavel. Okay.
Don't miss the opportunity.
I will not. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. As I do every time, just want to let folks know that there are fire exits in the back of the room, and there is also one off to my left. So if there's an emergency, calmly exit through those doors. I need a motion to approve the agenda. Mary Caitlin, Brian, all in favor? Aye. Which leads us to our first item here. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Provenzano.
Our first item is recognizing our amazing Board of Education. We have a great group of individuals represented by our schools and our PTAs here to celebrate the work of our Board of Education. Governor Hochul has declared the week of October 14th through the 18th, that's this week, as a time to recognize and celebrate the great work that our board does for our communities, the service that they give to our communities and to the children of New York State. For us, today is our day where we're recognizing the Board of Education. It's an opportunity to say thank you and show our appreciation to board members for their untiring dedication and commitment to the Fairport community and the education of all children. So without further ado, we're going to start off with a proclamation by our friends from Jefferson Ave School. Mr. Charno and team, why don't you come on up here?
Good evening. We, Jefferson Avenue, we're so excited to get the proclamation and then get us kicked off tonight. Of course, our slogan and our hashtag at Jefferson Avenue is Better Together. So I have some special people up here to help us celebrate you this evening. So again, Ryan Charno, proud principal here at Jefferson Avenue. I have 5th grade leader Landon Warner, 5th grade leader Rose Allen, Erica Santoro, lead teacher, Amy Busby, assistant principal, and Kirsten Weeks, our new proud PTA president. So without further ado, Ms. Busby, come on over.
JA's theme this year is Reach for the Stars. It is with gratitude and appreciation that we recognize the members of the Fairport Board of Education for all that they do to help the students and staff at JA, as well as all of the Fairport schools, to be our best selves and reach for our goals.
Whereas the week of October 14th to October 18th is the Board of Education Recognition Week in the state of New York, and
whereas the members of our Board of Education, Mrs. Erica Bellis Pacer, Dr. Mary Caitlin White, Mrs. Lisa Christensen, Mrs. Janice Fortuna, Mrs. Nicole Tebow, Dr. Brian Moritz, and Mr. Richard Muller have demonstrated their dedication and commitment to the Fairport community. And
whereas the Board of Education works with its educators to provide an environment where each child can grow in his or her desire to learn, create, solve problems, and
whereas the students of Jefferson Avenue, whereas the Board of Education works to cultivate healthy, caring, and critical thinkers who participate in and contribute to society. And
whereas the Board of Education works on behalf of the Fairport community and promotes its values and beliefs, and
whereas the students of Jefferson Avenue School show appreciation for the Board of Education members who give their time and energy to this challenging and worthwhile cause.
So therefore, we, the Jefferson Avenue Jaguar School community, along with all the Fairport schools, do hereby proclaim that the week of October 14th through 18th as Board of Education Recognition Week, and we urge all Fairport Red Raiders to come together, as we are this evening, to participate in giving thanks to our incredible Board of Education members. So today and every day, we're so appreciative of all you do to help us set the conditions for us to do the great work we do at our schools, and all this week and each and every day, we are thankful. So thank you, Board of Education.
Thank you.
Notice the shirts, everyone. I mean, they were wearing Josh Allen shirts earlier, but they decided to go with the JA shirts. That's just the school spirit. I'm going to ask. Oh my word! There you go. That's why you're being recognized. Love it. I'm going to ask Sarah Welsh and team to come up and celebrate Nicole Tebow.
All right, good evening, everyone. We echo what Ryan Charno and his team just shared. We thank you so much. We know that sometimes it might go unnoticed, but just know that all of your volunteer time and everything you do for our school and kids is super appreciated. So without further ado, we have a friend from Dudley, AJ.
Hi everyone, my name is AJ. I'm in 2nd grade at Dudley. We are so thankful for each of the board members and are happy to be here to celebrate you all.
We are pleased to honor Nicole Tebow and her service to Fairport families. We also learned she supports travel options for families with special needs. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you everyone for all you do.
We would like to donate this book, Come Over to My House, to the Dudley Library in honor of Miss Tebow. This book explores the homes of families with disabilities. Thank you.
I think it's important to recognize that the honorees are giving our students and staff are giving recognitions of interest of our board members. So I think it speaks to your passion. So put a lot of thought into it. I'm going to ask Pat Groh and Casey, Ferrando, come on up, and we're going to recognize Erica Bells Pacer.
Thanks, Mr. Provenzano and everyone on the board for having us here during Board Appreciation Week. And JP is pleased to honor, recognize, and thank Ms. Erica Bellis Pacer for all her hard work, and we're thankful for the work that she and everyone on the board does for us. But the good part is I've got Aiden and Fiona and Paula here to give our presentation part for us.
Thank you for having us here tonight on behalf of the students at JP. Thanks to the Board of Education for all of their work and support of us students. The book we want to present to Ms. Bellis Pacer is called Olivetti. Here is a short description of the book by award-winning author Ellie Millington. A hurting young boy who loses himself in his collection of Oxford English dictionaries must work with an old typewriter to find his missing mother. Olivetti the typewriter has been with the Brindell family for a long time, since Beatrice and Felix married through the birth of their 4 children.
He's been there through all the ups and downs, and after Beatrice disappears one day after selling Olivetti to a pawn shop, Ernest desperately wants to find her. When Olivetti responds to Ernest's typing, he steals the typewriter, hoping his mom's memories can help him find her. With the help of a determined young girl named Quinn, who refuses to let Ernest push her away, the trio sets out to follow the clues they find in Beatrice's memories recorded by Olivetti. During the journey to find Beatrice, the whole family must learn to face the pain of the past in order to face the challenges of the future together.
This story will tug at a reader's heartstring and make them think about their own struggles and how families and friends can help us carry our loads. A heartfelt, tender story of friendship and family told with a touch of magic realism. Again, all of us at JP want to say thank you to Mrs. Bellis Pacer and the rest of the board for all you do. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the school board recognition week and have a wonderful year.
Next, we're going to have Team Northside. I think I see Aaron Moretter and Jeremy Slack. Why don't you come on up here? We have a special guest. Dr. Mary Caitlin White is here to be recognized.
We can share. All right. Thank you to all the Board of Ed members for your service and dedication. We just really appreciate everything you do each and every day and have so many special connections at Northside with each of you, and we're very grateful. Tonight, we have the honor of recognizing Dr. Mary Caitlin White. When thinking about a book to dedicate, we turn to a very reliable source. Her daughter, Ellie, a Northside hero who is with us tonight. Ellie suggested Lila Greer, Teacher of the Year, telling us that this was a story that her mom enjoys reading to her. Would you believe we did not have this book in the Northside Library? We do now.
From the author of Ada Twist Scientist and Rosie Revere Engineer comes the story of the very first question near Lila Greer, Teacher of the Year. This picture book is about an anxious girl who arrives at a new school. This book is celebrated in kindness and learning to face your fears and the difference a teacher can make in a child's life. Teachers like Mrs. Kern in this story inspires us not to only learn but to dream, questions to explore. Teachers show us to challenge and to learn, to make mistakes, are stepping stones towards greatness. We know that Dr. Wright is this kind of teacher. This book is dedicated to Northside Library on the behalf of Dr. White. I think the Northside heroes will enjoy this book. Thank you, Mom, for serving on the school board.
Team Brooks Hill coming up next to recognize Rich Muller. Got some special guests with them as well.
Good evening. On behalf of the staff, students, PTA, and entire Brooks Hill community, we would like to recognize Mr. Rich Muller this evening. While we're just getting to know him as the newest member of the Board of Education, we've known his family for many years at Brooks Hill. We've had the privilege of having his children, Eleanor, who's back there, along with Henry and James at Brooks Hill. In that time, he and his family have been supportive of Fairport schools and the Fairport community. Tonight we have Mr. Muller's sons, Henry, a 5th grader, and James, a 3rd grader, representing Brooks Hill School. They will help us to get to know their dad a little bit more.
In addition to the time we spend at home playing cards and board games, are the times you might be rooting for the Mets, the Jets, or the Knicks. You are volunteering to make Fairport schools better for kids. Thank you for your hard work.
You also spend time supporting us with baseball and Cub Scouts. We also find time to travel. While doing all of that and working, you find time to work with the other board members to make a difference in our schools. You show the right way.
We have chosen 2 books in your honor that will be donated to the Brooks Hill School Library for all students to enjoy. After hearing about your travels this summer, we decided on 2 national park books, which are very popular with our students. National Parks of the USA and Lonely Planet Kids, America's National Parks. Thank you.
Take that over to Dad. I'll take that over to Dad.
Team Minerva DeLand, I think I see Patricia McGrath, is Don Monticelli. There you go. I didn't know you were hiding. But you know, it's impressive though, the Raider way, Rich. I mean, you're meeting all standards. And I also know that Dr. Brian Moritz is also meeting standards. We celebrate Dr. Brian Moritz.
Good evening, everybody. Dominic Monticelli, a very proud principal of Minerva DeLand. On behalf of Patricia McGrath and our entire MD family, I want to thank a genuine thank you to our entire Board of Education. It's interesting, just coming from the 10-year celebration, I was talking to a teacher that just received tenure, and they reminded me, you know, we started this during COVID, and here we are now. So genuinely, it's never been harder to be an educator. It's never been harder to be a student, a parent, and I think that goes all the way up to the top. So thank you for all you are doing and all you have done to support our schools and support our children. It takes a village, and you don't get paid for this. So thank you for all you do. When we have the honor of acknowledging Dr. Brian Moritz, and you know, I turn right to his daughter Elena to try to get to know him a little bit better, and I really appreciated that. She's going to say it much more eloquently than I can. But I just want to say a sincere thank you to Dr. Moritz. Just been super supportive to me personally, to Minerva DeLand. Anytime you come and visit our schools, you're always asking about programs and all of our programs. So now that I've gotten to know you a little bit better, I understand why. You've got eclectic taste and diverse taste. And that in that moment, I'll turn it over to Elena. So Elena is our rock star 9th grade student and obviously a daughter of Mr. Moritz. So Elena, take it away.
Hi everyone, this is the 3rd time I've helped choose a book for Fairport School Libraries in honor of my dad, Brian Moritz. The first year we chose a book about theater, and last year we chose one about our national parks, 2 things my dad loves outside his job. This year we chose one that is closer to who my dad is as a communications professor and as sports media guy. To be frank, I don't know anything about sports except that my dad won't sit down when the Bills are playing. But I do know he will love a book about overcoming challenges because he is the type of person who always stands by you and helps you succeed when things are hard, no matter what you are going through. This year, we are donating the memoir Work With What You Got to the Minerva DeLand Library. It is a story about wheelchair racer and wrestler Zion Clark, who was born without legs but reinvented wrestling moves to help defeat his opponents through his arm and hand strength, determination, and optimism. This is an inspirational story about courage for anyone who believes in the power of the human spirit. This book means that now my dad gets to share 3 of his favorite things with Fairport students: the supportive community of youth theater that I have been so lucky to be a part of, our incredible national parks that are full of, as my dad would say, learning opportunities, and now the hard work and determination of athletes of all abilities. But this means he really gets to share 4 things with Fairport students, because above all, my dad is a reader who loves to see other people inspired by books of all kinds and become readers too. Dad, I am so grateful for your hard work and dedication to our schools. Thank you for everything you do.
We're going to go with it. Mr. Clark, why don't you come on up? Come on, come on. Come on. He always goes last. But we're going to have a Martha Brown team come up, and we're going to celebrate Lisa Christensen as a board member, Becky and Danielle. It's been a long day.
right. Thank you to the Board of Education and Mr. Provenzano, wherever you are, behind me. All right, for allowing us to present during School Board Appreciation Week. It is our honor and privilege to recognize Lisa Christensen. Mrs. Christensen is mom to Claire, Rosemary, Ruth, and James. Mrs. Christensen works on the board supporting staff, students, and building administrators at Martha Brown. We thank you for your advocacy as well as your overall love of our students in this community. I am joined today by PTSA President Adrian Schley, students and daughters Rosemary and Claire Christensen, and Assistant Principal Danielle Fry. And we will let Rosemary take it away.
Good evening. This year, Martha Brown has the honor of recognizing board member Lisa Christensen for her dedication and commitment to the Fairport School District. Ms. Christensen willingly gives countless hours of her personal time working with other Board of Education members to ensure each and every student in the Fairport School District receives the best education possible. On behalf of the Martha Brown Middle School PTSA, we would like to present this small token of appreciation to Mrs. Christensen. It's a book entitled A Single Shard by Linda Sue Park. A Single Shard tells the story of a homeless orphan living in the 12th century Korea. The book begins by sharing the boy's life struggles. Eventually, he begins to work for a potter where he learns the craft of pottery. The main idea of a single shard is the value and importance of hard work, selflessness, honesty, and respect.
Mrs. Christensen, again, thank you for your work to support our students and staff in the Fairport Central School District. We appreciate all that you do.
Last but definitely not least, Mr. Clark, we're going to recognize Jan Fortuna.
My apologies, I was a little excited to get up here. I want to start by lodging a complaint. We always go last, and it's an impossible act to follow. There's way too much cuteness. I was telling Carmody beforehand, because she's jumping in to help out tonight, you're going to see a lot of cute things, and then we'll go. So thank you, Carmody. I'm also joined here tonight by Penny Dunn, who's the president of the combined MD, FHS, PTSA, and just thank her for being here. Tonight we have the honor of recognizing Jan Fortuna. And unfortunately, Katie's not here, or we would shamelessly use her to help us honor you. But Katie's doing a college visit tonight, and that's really important stuff to do too. So with her schedule conflict, I turned to our board reporter and asked her to pull double duty. So Carmody's going to join me in just a minute here. But on behalf of Katie and the rest of the FHS students, I want to thank you for all of your sacrifice, for your time, your energy away from your family to work on our family, all the time and dedicated work to supporting us. Thank you for working to become a steward of board policies, budget priorities, and pretty much everything under the sun that's required to run our district. We appreciate that. So we appreciate your leadership and commitment to our school community, and we have a book that we're dedicating to you, and I'm going to let Carmen D get a little summary on that.
Tonight, we are dedicating The Betrayal of Anne Frank by Rosemary Sullivan to Mrs. Fortuna. Over 30 million people have read The Diary of a Young Girl, which is a journal teenage Anne Frank kept while living in an attic with her family and 4 other people in Amsterdam during World War II. With painstaking care, the retired FBI agent Vincent Pankow and a team of indefatigable investigators poured over tens of thousands of pages of documents, some which have never been seen before, and interviewed scores of descendants of people familiar with the Franks. The Betrayal of Anne Frank, a cold case investigation, is the riveting story of their mission. Rosemary Sullivan introduces us to the investigators, explains the behavior of both the captives and their captors, and profiles a group of suspects. All the while, she vividly brings a life wartime Amsterdam, a place where no matter how wealthy, educated, or careful you were, you never knew whom you could trust. This book speaks to our curriculum in so many ways and will be a tremendous resource for students and staff.
On behalf of all PTAs, one of the main points of the PTA mission statement is to be an advocate for the education and well-being of all children, and I know that you all do that, and I want to say thank you. So, thank you all.
Well, I often think and have thought, like, what is the purpose of a school board, right? Right? I think it's a mistake to think. I think it's easy. It's a mistake. A school board. What? I think it's easy to mistake a school board for what happens just at these meetings. I think it's easy for folks to see school board work as committees, reports, resolutions, and your favorite, Robert's Rules of Order. Right? Much more than that. Those things are very important. They help create the outline of a board's responsibilities, but they really just scratch the surface if you think about it. The level of commitment goes far beyond the 4 hours every third Tuesday of the month. In Fairport, the commitment that our board members have goes right to the heart of the community. What is best for our students? What can we do to improve the present and the future of our young people who are in our care? It's a call for duty, a higher calling. You could tell that's the motivation of this Fairport board. Each member of our board has a student in the halls, as we've seen right now. So their commitment is full on. They're in it completely to win it for our students. What is best for our students means what is best for their students and their students' friends and their teammates and their peers. It's a different way to look at the work of a board. It's more joyous, more focused, and more collaborative. The work of a board is done in vast amounts of unpaid, unseen labor for which there is no public or private compensation other than this one simple fact and knowledge. I have done it truly because it is best for our students. Thank you, Board of Education.
I know, I was going to say. Yeah. So I just did want to say thank you for being here tonight. It's awesome to have so many folks in the room. It's oftentimes just us. So, watch us from home. We're always happy to have folks here and all your free time. But again, thank you so much. And we will definitely let those of you that would like to leave head on out the door. So thank you, and have a great evening.
Congratulations, everybody.
Let it be said that I get the first one to stand up when you left.
Oh, yeah. That's called normal.
I'm stuck on the wire. Go that way.
You all right? Got it?
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna, now that so many people are left, we're gonna move on. We actually do not have any public comments today, so we're gonna move right on. I do need to make a motion to amend the agenda. Mary Kate?
We should say why we're.
I'm going to after.
Okay.
Yep.
Up. Second.
So, all in favor? Aye.
We have to. No, we have to. You have to
Oh,
tell
I
us.
thought I had to do it after that.
No, that's
Okay.
discussion.
Okay, so I need a motion to amend the agenda, and we're gonna be moving the finance audit to after the personnel, because the person that is presenting is not here yet.
So we're just gonna, until when
Yeah.
he shows up, he can do it.
Yep,
But
so we're gonna move it to,
amend it again.
Yep.
Call vote. Yep. All in favor?
all in favor? Aye.
So it's first, second,
then
then
discuss,
discuss, then everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but.
Are we good? We're good. Okay. Sarah, are you good? That's, yeah, I figured. That's what I wanted to make sure.
Erica made the initial and I seconded it.
Yep. And does it make sense? So we're gonna move, yep,
Let's all look for Robert's session at.
yep. Okay, so I think we can move on, and Carmody. We're gonna have our school student advisor give us information.
Okay. I thought that wasn't working. Okay. Hi, everyone. Today I'm just going to give you a report, per usual, on what's going on in the school. Right now, we just concluded our 4-day weekend, which was very nice and very restful. And everyone had a good time, I think. But, we also concluded Safety Week. I think Safety Week is a very important week that we have in the school, and especially with all the new things that come up in our world, sadly, I think it's a great thing that we have implemented here. And from my point of view, being a senior and watching all the sophomores and juniors, I think that the school did a very good job of carrying it out in a successful way and a beneficial way, and I think that luckily everything was well handled and we all understand the importance of why we do Safety Week here. Also, senior trip is coming up next month, not next week, and we're all very excited about that as well. We're finalizing our rooms, we're getting everything set with guidance, so that's something that I know my friends and I are all looking forward to and getting ready to be a part of, and the excitement of going to Boston, because personally I've never been to Boston, so I'm quite excited. Also, as we know, there was a hoax threat of possible gun violence, what we thought could have been a shooting this past week. Luckily, it was not. It was a hoax, and I think I want to thank Mr. Clark because he did a very good job of definitely comforting the whole entire school, because I know at certain points it's like a lot of people can be scared and it can bring a lot of worry into the system, because I feel like Fairport is a very safe community and a very bright place. But I think the staff as well as all of the students handled it pretty well, and I just want to thank him again, because coming over the announcements just to come and comfort everybody and kind of keep everyone updated, I think was very beneficial. So it did kind of scare everyone just a little bit, but I think we do a really good job of keeping track of what's going on and updating students, and especially going straight to the source. And it's definitely a comfortable place to be, because there was law enforcement here, and I know that there was law enforcement at other schools because my siblings go to Minerva, Dudley, and Northside, so they're all, I got the whole squad in it. But yeah, that's my report so far.
Thanks, Carmody. Okay, which brings us to the president's report. And Carmody, you covered a little bit of what I'm going to talk about too. So first of all, happy fall.
I wanted to thank, they're not here anymore, but if you're listening at home, just all the students and families that took time to be here tonight. As a parent of students in the district, I know that it's a really busy time. And I think on behalf of all of the board, we're grateful for the time, thought, and energy that they put into presenting and choosing the books that they dedicated for us. So the end of September and beginning of October has been very busy for the board and across the board. There were continued information nights, play rehearsals, clubs starting to meet for the first time, and a variety of sporting events. It's definitely easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of our everyday lives, especially when you're busy and just trying to focus on the next day. Last week, as many of you know, there was a situation at the high school, not unlike schools across the United States. It is happening, as we know, everywhere. But I did want to take this opportunity to thank the school staff, administrators, and our law enforcement partners for the quick response and sensitivity while handling the situation. As a parent in the district, I'm really proud of the plans that we have in place and the mental health supports that can be accessed by our students. We know that there's not just one way to help students or solve a problem, and I feel like we come at it from all angles. So again, I just want to thank all of the support and the help from our community from last week, and thank you.
My turn?
You are up next, yep.
I have to tell you, I do know what a school board does.
Oh, no.
I'm never going to live that down, but my delivery was off. I needed a little bit more practice with that, but you got to blame it on the old eyes. But congratulations to our Board of Education for their great recognition, and I love how we're able to donate books in your name, something that's passionate. And a lot, sometimes it's your children, sometimes it's other students who are doing it, but I think it's a nice tribute. Another piece, recognition or tribute, trying to, President Bells Pacer and Carmody were speaking about the event that occurred last week. We're blessed to have resources of support, and that's a Board of Education priority and commitment, making sure that we're always safe and doing all we can to promote safety, wellness, and health and well-being of our students. And when it's compromised, like I think Carmody and what Erica was saying, how do we respond? I'm proud of how we responded. It's never perfect, and it's unfortunate that we live in a society where there's times when we have to enact drills and really go through a process. And I sat at the school, and Mr. Clark, I appreciate all your work. Deb Miles was amazing, and Sam Farina and his team were on site throughout the day, walking the perimeter of our building and seeing the yellow coats and seeing the law enforcement available, ready to support as needed. And I just felt a point of pride. And I just want to say thank you for prioritizing it, and we were able to enact and do some pretty special things during that time to protect each other and comfort each other. I think Carmody said it, and again, Mr. Clark and I were communicating throughout, and he has such command, and his team has such command. Staff was so amazing, pivoting in the classroom, taking their lesson plans for the day, and whether they're talking about what was occurring or playing games, because that's what the kids needed. There was a palpable feeling in the air, and it needed to be addressed, and everybody dealt with it in a way that we could be proud of. Even though we didn't want to be in that moment, we rose to that moment. So thank you, Board of Education, for giving us that opportunity. People who rise to the moment. This month's Bright Spot is celebrating our paraprofessionals. Our paraprofessionals are on site supporting our students in so many different ways.
Raise your hand. Para is a prefix, and when we're in 95%, we learn about prefixes and suffixes, and it means along with. So I work along with the teachers, and I work along with the students. I'll have a duty in the morning, and I have a post, and I make sure that our little readers are getting to where they need to be in a safe way, and I'll just work with them in small groups or maybe individually.
So some days it's really super rewarding. I mean, you see somebody struggling, whether they're having a hard time emotionally, they're having a hard time with academics, and you're there to help them and support them. And then other days it's just going around with your regular routine and nothing big happens, and that's okay too.
Your role as a paraprofessional is you walk around, you make these connections with the kids, you're checking their work, you're looking for signs that either they're doing really well and you point that out, hey, you got that, that's awesome. That little boost just might make their day.
The support of a paraprofessional, it allows some of these students to have a least restrictive classroom setting and education, and without that support they may not be able to reach that goal of graduation. So it's always a feel-good when that happens.
I think just supporting every child and not just focusing on what they can't do, what they can do as well with the support.
Making the magic, the magic of learning. I get to see a lot of different ways to do that.
And we have so many teachers that tell us on a daily basis, we wouldn't be able to do this if you weren't in our room with us. And we thank you and we appreciate you. And that to us means a lot more than anything.
I guess my most memorable moment comes each June, when you get to see that the students that you've worked with starting in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, when you see their name listed as graduates from Fairport, I think that just really kind of touches my heart each year.
Every time I go in a grocery store and I see one of the students that I had in elementary at JA, and then they've come through the high school and they've seen me again, and then we're out in public and they're like, oh, hi, Mrs. Clark, how are you? And they come up and they give me a great big hug. I feel like I have touched them in a way and made a connection with them.
Basically, it's fun. So I would suggest anyone who is curious about it. There's so many different roles. There's so many different buildings and age and grade levels that there's really something for everybody.
And if you decide to do that and you decide to accept a position as a paraprofessional, do try to seek out any sort of training or classes that you can get along the way. It will make you better prepared along the way and have a better understanding of the students and their needs.
So we need to make sure that the paras have all the tools that they need to best work with the teacher and the student. So we're making sure they're meeting their goals as well.
I don't think the parents know the number of adults throughout the day that are there to support their children, and I think they'd be thrilled if they found out how many people are there to love and nurture and care for their kids each day.
Thank you once again to Lauren and Lindsay for putting that together. I think they truly are essential workers, and our paraprofessionals, Susan Caseman has said it, sometimes are the glue that holds our schools together because of the knowledge and history they have and their passion to connect with kids. So thank you again for that level of investment and commitment. Our paraprofessionals make a difference. So, the Board of Education has the expectations of a strategic plan, and I'm proud of this past week at the conference day on Friday. There were so many teachers collaborating around our strategic plan, the ideas of whether it's facilities planning, whether it's school improvement initiatives, the school improvement team led by Dr. Tanya Wilson, David Ace, and her team really wire our strategic plan and implement it in a way that gets people engaged in it. And there was lots of collaboration. I think I shared with the board the agenda and the level of things that were going on, professional learning that was going on, but there was also collegial time too, and I think that was important and that was much appreciated. So thank you for creating a day and supporting a day that aligned to our priorities. One of our priorities, speaking of our strategic plan, is to make sure that we are prepared for the 2026-27 consolidation, right? So that's happening, and we talk about our pillars. Pillars 1, 2, and 3 are about our students. Students first. What are our students' day? What's it going to look like? What's the transition going to look like? There's objectives and activities that we need to accomplish. The second thing is the school start time shift. that was an added element. The board's provided clarity on that piece, but there's still questions about that and what we need to do to support that change on top of the change that's occurring with the consolidation. And staff culture, that's a big one as well. How do we welcome and affirm all of our staff, particularly the ones that are coming to Fairport High School? We talked about that on Friday as well. We are looking at what we're going to be calling a staff transition committee. It's a multidisciplinary committee that will address and understand and communicate pertinent matters related to the 2026-27 consolidation. Pretty much it will focus on pillars 1, 2, and 3. And this group, or these groups, will be reporting to the transition committee. I'll be asking board members to be a part of the staff transition committee to come in as observers at any point in time. There'll be 5 or 6 meetings, and student transition committee is going to be talking about all the things that are occurring relative to the transition. All of our best thinkers are going to be coming together to talk about the questions that people had and reporting to this group. There's going to be a staff wellness committee. How do we feel good about and become one staff? How do we meld and bring these staffs together? They'll be reporting to the transition committee. There's the joint PBIS team, like the Raider Way, making sure that, like Mr. Mahler, that everybody's following the Raider Way, and making the stories and the energy and the positive ways that we interact will be consistent as we go to 26-27, and celebrating Minerva the land. There's a rich history there. We need to make sure that we bring out that era and recognize it accordingly. There's lots of administrative pieces from scheduling to site management issues to staffing that there's good questions on. And that's in pillars 1, 2, and 3. It's online. The board has seen that. But this body will have multiple meetings to hear from these groups. Okay. And then there's a 4th pillar, and that's the human resources piece. That's tied to the memorandum of agreement, our commitment with the FEA. They're going to be standing by at that committee and looking at things from a union lens. And I think that's fair, and I think that's reasonable, because someone should be looking at the contract, making sure that we're honoring our obligations, and we're proud to be working alongside of them as they observe what occurs during the transition committee meetings. And again, I'll be welcoming the board. We'll get those on your calendar. We'll be hitting those after the first of the year. We'll be forming and norming them over the next several months, but it's really happening, and there's lots of activities that we need to do to fulfill our objectives, to meet the challenges of the pillars. Now, where did we get all this information? Well, that's because we spent months on months listening, interacting, meeting with staff, getting feedback from staff, thought exchanges from the community and the staff and from our students. And we're going to be reporting on that over the next several months. And it's all going to be filtered to this staff transition committee, again, where the board will have a window into seeing how it's being managed. Any questions? Happy Board Recognition Month. Thank you.
Okay. Oh,
no,
you're good? Okay. Looks snazzy.
I know you like that. I like that.
The colors are nice, absolutely. So up next, we do have time for board member committee reports. So I will put it out to the rest of the board.
All right, so I had the honor, of being our voting delegate at the NYSBA business meeting last week. It was only 5.5 hours, so Peter Forrester, I did not break your record of 8 hours from last year. But it was a meeting we had, I think, a peak around 300 school boards represented from across the state, voting on resolutions about NYSBA's advocacy policies. And so we ended up approving 26 of the resolutions over the course of the meeting. I shared them with you guys the other day. Nothing groundbreaking or unusual kind of the piece that NYSBA's been doing. Also, from a legislative perspective, Monroe County School Board Legislative Committee, Eric and I attended the meeting last week. Our position paper committee work, which I'm a part of, begins next week, and those are the papers that we'll craft and we'll use at our legislative breakfast. And Erica, Brett, and I are going to be meeting with some of our local legislators over the next few weeks. We're meeting with Jen Lunsford tomorrow morning, in fact, and then we have meetings set with Senator Broke and Congressman Morelli in the next few weeks. And all three of them have been incredible partners to work with for all schools in our area, but especially at Fairport. So we're looking forward to chatting with them and letting them know what we need.
And I actually will be meeting with Chuck Schumer tomorrow too, in the afternoon. So it'll be an interesting day. Yes, I will keep everyone updated on that one.
Do you want to go? Okay. So I was actually reflecting on this as we were so beautifully recognized, and I know we all feel very humble about our work. And I was thinking also about this last week because, while, Brian and, I can't say I'm meeting with Chuck Schumer tomorrow. I apologize, but I did get to, yeah. I did last week got to, part of the information exchange was joined by the Cornell Cooperative Extension in Monroe County. And, while some of us are talking to Albany and making sure that we, are bringing the best work and the best policies to our schools, this was just a really wonderful program when they came to talk to us about just some of the different programming that they can bring to schools. A lot of it's all surrounding with agriculture, farm to table, sustainability, a topic close to all of our hearts here in Fairport, and just some of the programs that they were talking about. They actually do a great literacy program where they'll bring in local leaders such as like Adam Bello, Jen Lunsford, and coming in to read to the kids about, just an emphasis on, food origins, agriculture. Again, they even brought up, oh my God, not recycling, composting. Thank you. Sorry, composting, which I was excited to share. Of course, we're doing at Dudley, so that's just such a great connection there. But it was a great meeting. On another note, Rich and I, and Rich, feel free to jump in. Right after our meeting last in September, we our district operations centered around the cell phone policy. Greece came to talk to us about their cell phone policy that they instituted a couple years ago, and just some of the benefits that they have seen, for their students. And, I think regardless of whatever route a school district goes to, whether it's more of a, ban or more of a structured lockdown of the phones, consistency is key. And I think we saw, at least in our initial visit last month at Fairport, really the beneficial benefits and the positive changes that are happening, at the high school. I think it seems that the year has gotten off to a really good start there. Kids are understanding kind of the protocol and the procedures. I asked my tour guide the bell was about to ring, and I said to him, oh, I have to imagine the kids are going to pour out of the classrooms and everyone's going to take, their phones out. And he's like, no, not really. And it really, they weren't. They weren't. In fact, one of the teachers said, I am sometimes having to track down kids because they've left their phone in their pockets. So that's a great thing. So I think regardless, whatever path you choose, I think you have to do what's right for your district. I hope we're doing the best we can, and I think we're making some really good inroads. And I think it's balancing. It's how can we minimize distractions? How can we focus on academics? And how can we help our children and our students self-regulate? So.
And you made butter at that meeting.
I did make
That's
butter.
way more fun than my legislative call.
I did
I can promise you that.
Did you know how good pretzels are with? I made butter. It was so much fun. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. Thank you.
Yeah, with respect to the district operations committee, I think you nailed it, right? Like every district's going to figure out what their culture is and how they're going to get the results. And it looks like the efforts that our educators and our staff are taking this year are really promising. So glad to hear that. And then we also had the meeting of the audit and finance committee, which I know we're going to hear about the audit in a moment. I think I limited it to only about 50 questions. So it was great for me. Finance is part of my job. And it was nice to be across the table from our partners with our audit consultants and our audit firm to get questions answered, to look at all the good oversight that happens as part of that process. And we'll be hearing more about that soon.
I was part of 2 initial committee meetings this past week. The first one was the Tech Task Force, which was my very first one, so half this stuff I'm not sure I know what it means, but I will report on it nonetheless. First, we talked about evaluating and upgrading AV equipment in some of the auditoriums, which I know my kiddos are very excited about because they're drama kids. So they're going to be checking on the AV equipment, sound equipment, and the microphones. So that's exciting. Fairport continues to apply for grants to use in the Spark Labs, which is great. With their latest grant, they purchased microbits. I don't know what that means. Little controllers or something. I know, right? But they're going to continue to apply for grants, which I think is great. They talked about the partnership with MCC and the optics program and the lab they have there, and enabling students to explore this emerging field and possible career paths, which I have a personal connection to, so yay optics. They also talked about transferring phone systems from Frontier to SIP trunk. Again, I don't know what that means.
Better. It's going to be much upgraded. Tom is very excited
More
about
reliable
this.
service and more lines per building.
Mhm.
That's what I got from that. Is that right? Okay, yay. Am I getting this right? All right. And then we did talk about the Chromebook protection plan, which went out in Parent Square today. So please check your Parent Square and sign in. I got that. Right?
I
All
did.
right.
Got that.
I signed mine. I don't know. You signed yours?
It's
All right. It's happening. It's in process. The other committee meeting that I attended was the Wellness Committee. And that was review of what we did last year, a little bit of reviewing and discussing and brainstorming what we want to do this year, with I think a heavy focus on supporting our students and our teachers and faculty and in anxiety, mental health, supporting everybody that kind of way. So more to come from that, but that's kind of recap. Anything else on wellness?
No, you're good.
Okay, yeah.
I'll just,
All right.
oh, go for it. Super brief. I appreciate the invitation to participate in the facilities planning committee for K-8. That's really exciting to see the planning happening for work being done in those younger kids' buildings, and just again, thank you for involving all the stakeholders. I think that's so important to hear from the teachers and the staff that are using the building, and I was really impressed with how often, as they were debating what their priorities would be, that they would say, well, what's the best thing for the kids and what's going to be best for our students. And it was just really an honor to be able to see that and to see them collaborating and working toward that. So thank you.
We had our standing policy meeting, which you'll see tonight on the agenda, but then Erica and I also had the opportunity to attend MCSBA's fall law conference and timely session on social media use by both students and board members. And so we shared those PowerPoints. It was just a great back overview. We had a great in-depth conversation about special education law, which kind of summarized what we had seen at our June retreat. So it was a nice refresher. But I think hands down the best session was the discussion between Sarah Visengard from here, from the local law firm, and a representative from the state education department. And they basically talked back and forth about the commissioner's decisions over the past year and what that the commissioner said, how that impacts schools, how it could impact other situations moving forward. So it was really interesting. So that PowerPoint was in there, and I can't recommend it enough because they spent a lot of time kind of breaking it down in plain language, what occurred in the case and what that implicates. And I think my biggest takeaway, and add in yours, the focus on restorative practices, that the commissioner is not going to accept punitive discipline without learning tied with it, and that she's going to kick it back. So I thought that was interesting.
Following processes and consistency, which I think they said a lot. Oh, it was excellent. I agree. Anybody else? Okay. So up next, we do have the treasurer and investment update.
Thank you and good evening. Tonight we have a few months worth of updates as we close out the fiscal year. As mentioned earlier from Mr. Muller, we'll hear from our external auditor on the results of our June of 2024 year end. First, we'll start with the June of 24. General fund cash balance, we had a beginning balance of 89.9 million, receipts of 5.8 million, disbursements of 24.7 million for an ending cash balance of 71 million. Approximately 31 million invested between a mix of money market and Assured Cash Sweep. Year end, that's typically what we see as we close out the year before we set aside funds for the following fiscal year in investments. Expense and revenues, approximately 154 million in revenues for the year end and 161 million of expense. Compared to 22-23, the expense is a good portion higher. That's because we had a transfer from the capital reserve fund for the capital improvement project. So that goes over to our capital fund. So that's expense within the general fund. Funds move over to the capital fund for the project that was voter approved. That is June of 24. Next is July. Beginning cash balance of 71 million, receipts of 1.1 million, expenses of 5.3 million for an ending cash balance of about 67 million, of which 57 million invested in the money market, Insured Cash Sweep, CD, T-bills overall. And beginning of the year, expenses about 7.2 million, revenues at about 700,000. So it's beginning of the year. Tax funds aren't in, so it's, here's where our expenses will exceed revenues at this point in time in the year. Once our tax money comes in the fall is when we start to see that turn around a little bit. And then finally, for the month of August of 24, beginning cash balance of 66.7 million, receipts of 3.5 million, and disbursements of 5.3 million for an ending cash balance of 64.9 million, of which 55.5 invested in the mix of money market, T-bills, and Insured Cash Sweep. And again, expenses will exceed revenues at this point in the year in August, about 12 million in expense and $1 million in revenue through August. So that is a summary of June through August of 24's Treasurer Investment Update.
Thanks, Mr. Stevens. And we did notice that our guest is here, so I need a motion to amend the agenda to move our finance report to after our communications. Mary Caitlin? Brian? All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Very good. Okay. So I'm going to hand it over to, I guess, Mr. Stevens and Tom. Thanks for joining us today.
Yep. Thank you. Tonight we have Mr. Tom Zuber from MMB and Company, our external audit firm that audits our financial statements. And just like to thank Tom and his team first for all the professionalism and work they do with our team, and thank our team and district office, business office, and all the work that they're pulling together for Tom through the process and his team. So, without further ado, Tom Zuber.
Thank you. Good evening, and I appreciate you adjusting the agenda for me. Thank you very much. Yeah, as was mentioned, we are here to talk and discuss the June 30th, 2024 audit of the school district. And you should have all received the finalized financial statements and internal control communications in your board packet. And so just a couple bullet points from that 70-page document I'll try and highlight briefly. But to start off, these financial statements really are the result of a budget process that was started about 2 years ago, right? And so over that 2-year period, certainly been a lot of change from one year to the next. So certainly these are the results of that budget process that you started 2 years ago. And again, we did meet with the audit committee last week, October 10th. And we did spend about 50 minutes with the audit committee, which I think is, one of the records that I've spent with audit committees. So it was a very, very good meeting. And yes, there were a lot of questions and a lot of good discussions. And for me, it's very exciting because, I do enjoy talking about this information. So it was a very good meeting. We did talk about the budget variances, the reserves, fund balance, internal controls, and checks and balances. So we did have a very, very nice meeting. And just like many school districts out there, especially in New York State, continue to be many challenges out there. The challenges with state aid uncertainty, right? What's going on? How's this formula aid going to shake out going forward? The property tax cap, certainly challenges for all school districts. Employee benefits, what's going on? How is the Inflationary Reduction Act impacting the premiums on local, on programs? So again, some of those challenges out there, even inflation, as well as the federal stimulus monies, right? And how districts manage the federal stimulus monies that came in play during COVID, and how districts had to manage as those dollars went away. And again, the district continues to be in good financial condition. We did spend a lot of time reviewing those reserves and fund balances. And really, when we look at the district's financial conditions, we're really focusing on the overall reserves and fund balance, and what is the district's plan as it relates to reserves and fund balance. And you do have a very nice plan that is reviewed annually relating to the reserves. Some of the key reserves we talked about relate to the employee retirement contribution reserve, the teacher's retirement contribution reserves. And those reserves are really important because those pension systems really dictate to the school district, here's the rate that you have to pay as it relates to your salaries, right? You really don't have a choice. And although those rates have been fairly consistent in the past, recently, we have seen where they've spiked up and down. And so again, very positive reserves to really help manage and maintain those programs for the school district. So very excellent reserves. The other reserves we talked about really relate to those capital reserves. And I think something was mentioned earlier about the capital project, right? And some of those dollars. And again, those capital reserves are so important to school districts when it comes to the long-term planning. And this district has really done a nice job over that, over the past years relating to those reserves. As you know, those reserves, they're a little more restrictive, right? The voters vote to create those reserves. The board funds them, and then the voters vote to utilize those reserves. In fact, the voters voted to use about $20 million out of your capital reserves to support the new project, right? And again, the benefit of that is it really reduces the impact to the local taxpayer, right? As you're looking and planning out these reserves. So, the district has done a nice job in developing those reserves over the years, and you're using those reserves as part of that long-term plan, which is really important. That's really what those bond rating agencies are looking at, is how are you managing those long-term reserves and that long-term plan for the school district. So again, you're doing a very, very nice job with that. So again, you ended the year in very good financial position. Some of those key areas that did come into play, very strong investment earnings, right? We talked about this budget process starting over 2 years ago. Well, and interest earnings weren't where they are now 2 years ago, right? So you've done a nice job of that. Where they will go, really another area of uncertainty, right? So again, some nice blips, but where will that go? Sales tax has also been very strong. So you've really done a nice job in managing those dollars and really reallocating some of those dollars back into the reserves that you currently have. So again, very nice job of that. Again, the federal stimulus monies, I mentioned that you spent a little over $2.7 million this year on federal stimulus dollars, right? So managing how those reoccurring expenditures come back into the general fund, because they're spent over here in this other fund of the school district in the grant funds, right? And as those dollars, those recurring expenses come back to the general fund, the district really had a nice plan to manage those costs and how they came back into the general fund. So again, very, very positive from the audit standpoint, okay? So those are some of the key items we talked about with the audit committee, okay? We also talked about internal controls, checks and balances. So we did talk about a few minor procedural items that we recommended to the district. We also talked about 3 items that the district implemented from the prior year, which is very positive from the audit standpoint. Really shows that the district is reacting to our audit and implementing corrective action. So again, very positive from the audit side of it. Okay, so it's about 70 pages and probably about 4.5 minutes. So again, we did spend some time with the audit committee and really dove into the numbers a little bit deeper, and it really was a good conversation. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't, as somebody on the audit and finance committee, thank you so much for your diligence. It was, I guess, I know we were about 50 minutes. We probably were more concise than even, than we were probably pulling ourselves back a little bit. But I do really appreciate the dialogue and taking the time to answer our questions. And I think something that doesn't always come across or people don't realize is, and you touched on it very briefly, is the amount of internal controls that there are on school districts in terms of our spending and looking at the money and the checks and balances. So I think having those conversations really allows just such a huge sense of trust and appreciation for all that you do, Tom, Chris, Matt. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes.
Thanks,
you.
Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
And thank you, Chris and Matt.
Okay. So next on the agenda, we have our consent calendar. Before we approve it, I did just want to mention one of the items in our consent calendar was a donation, which is a pretty cool donation. It is an automatic basketball. I don't even know what to call it. Machine? Yes, yeah. So I did just want to point that out because I think it will be used by many, many teams and probably for a significant period of time. So, oh, thanks. There, machine. Yeah, okay. I guess there isn't a more technical word. So just wanted to bring that up. But so I need a motion to approve the consent calendar. Lisa, Jan, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. Which brings us to our board discussion and action items. And I need a motion that the board approve the 2025-26 budget goals. Brian? Rich? Discussion?
I'm excited to have them done.
Yeah, I was going to comment that in my report, but I figured it was here. So, yeah, I'm glad that we have these done. We've talked about them at length, and we are approving them tonight. If you're listening from home, they are on the public content. So,
No, they're an admin.
They will be.
Oh,
We will make them public as soon as the board approves. If the board approves.
right. Any other discussion? No. All in favor? Aye. Okay, next I need a motion that the Board of Education accepts the 2025-26 budget calendar as attached.
So moved.
Mary Caitlin? Nicole? Discussion around the calendar?
I was going to say, no, I'm excited to see the Under the Hood community series continuing to build and continuing to build and get that engagement.
And this one is in public content. I was ahead of myself on the one prior, so you can see that there. And as Mary Caitlin and Brian mentioned, the Under the Hood or trunk is part of it.
Invites will go out to community, I believe, at the end of this week.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
Thank
so
you, Lindsay.
Early planning.
Invite only.
All in favor? Aye. 7-0. So next up, we have a motion to approve field trip requests as attached. Lisa?
Second.
Rich? Discussion?
Awesome option.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you for getting those in a timely fashion as well, because I see there are some that are quite far out.
No, I just want to say thank you, Sarah, for organizing it and making sure that we're staying on schedule with it.
Absolutely. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Mary Caitlin mentioned our policies, so you can see our lovely list here. So I need a motion that the Board of Education approves the first reading of the following policies. The Policy Committee Charter, 2024-25, 30, 30, 31, 21, 7640, 7642, 7643, 7650, and 7651. Brian?
Second.
Mary Caitlin, any discussion?
Just a quick overview for those not on the committee. We're continuing to go through the cycle of the special education policies, and then we also updated our policy for senior citizens, hopefully to allow more community members to participate in district events. So we're glad Mr. Provenzano's focused on that.
Oh, I couldn't have done it without you. Thanks for your flexibility on that. I really appreciate it. And again, that will be part of our communication this week to the community as well. So hopefully we can get more of our senior citizens engaged in our wonderful schools. Thanks, Lindsay.
All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Next up, I need a motion that the Board of Education approves the second reading of the following policy, 5684. Mary Caitlin? Jan? Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. And that brings us to fundraising. I need a motion that the Board of Education approves the attached fundraising requests. Lisa?
Second.
Rich? Any discussion? I was just going to say again, thanks to those that got things in a timely fashion, and it was easy to look at, so thank you. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Okay, up next, personnel. So I need a motion to approve the following instructional staff actions as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Brian? Lisa? When we met, just a shorter list because I think Doug and team did a lot of work prior to the beginning of the school year, so we don't have as many to approve, but nonetheless, thank you for your hard work. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. I need a motion to approve the following non-instructional and civil service staff actions as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Rich? Lisa? Any discussion? Again, excited to see bus driver trainees. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. I need a motion to approve the following athletic staff actions as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Jan and then Brian. Lots of things for our winter sports. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. I need a motion to approve the updated salary and benefit contract of the managerial administrative personnel for the 2024-25 school year as attached.
Second.
Lisa and then Mary Caitlin. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. I need a motion to approve the memorandums of agreement as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Rich? Lisa? Any discussion here? Excited about girls wrestling. I'll just throw that in there. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. A motion to approve the updated salaries of personnel not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. Lisa? Nicole? All in favor? Aye. And up next, I need a motion to enter into executive session to discuss matters pertaining to potential litigation. Invited to attend is Superintendent Brett Provenzano. Also, matters pertaining to the job performance of a particular individual not in a collective bargaining unit. And we also invite Superintendent Provenzano to that. Brian? Lisa? All in favor? Aye. And I know. My disclaimer at the end, we are going into executive session where we will not be having cameras. We will just reconvene to adjourn, so you will not be missing anything on the live feed. So have a great night, and thanks for being with us.